I never expected them to steal the roof over my head. Last year, as the Christmas hymn was being passed around the table, my mother raised a champagne glass and made an announcement that turned my blood cold. We've decided Chloe and her kids are moving into the downtown condo next month. Everyone cheered, clapped, and congratulated my sister. They all smiled at me, expecting me to nod along like the pushover I'd always been. The problem? That $350,000 condo didn't belong to my parents. It was mine. I bought it, I paid the mortgage, and my name was on the deed. I didn't scream or cause a scene. Instead, I stood up, clapped, smiled, and calmly walked out the door. By the time New Year's Eve rolled around, I had sold it, collected the cash, and completely vanished. Then came the 79 missed calls. My name is Olivia. I'm 32 years old, and up until last Christmas, I actually believed that if you worked hard enough, your family would finally respect you. I was wrong. For the past decade, I've pulled 80-hour work weeks as a corporate auditor, sacrificing my sleep, my social life, and my sanity to build my own financial security. 2 years ago, all that grueling labor paid off when I finally bought a beautiful downtown condo for $350,000. I paid every single cent of the down payment myself, and my name was the only one written on the deed. But in my family, my achievements were always treated like a background shadow to my older sister Chloe's dramatic life. Chloe was the classic golden child. She spent her 20s floating from one failed boutique business to another, blowing through her savings and racking up massive credit card debts. Whenever her life inevitably caught fire, our parents were always right there with an emotional fire extinguisher and a fat check to bail her out. Because I was the stable, independent one, my parents treated me like an invisible ghost until they needed something. A few months after I moved into my new condo, my mother cornered me during a brief Sunday visit. She gave me a sweet, manipulative smile and asked if she could have a spare set of keys. She claimed it was just for emergencies, in case a pipe burst while I was traveling for work. It seemed innocent enough, so I handed them over. I had absolutely no idea I was actually handing them the weapon they would use to try and destroy my entire life. The drive to my parents' house for our annual Christmas Eve dinner felt heavier than usual. When I walked through the front door, the atmosphere in the dining room was thick with tension, yet the moment my family noticed me, their faces instantly lit up with uncharacteristically warm smiles. My mother immediately rushed over to take my coat, and my father handed me a glass of wine, asking about my job with a level of enthusiasm he hadn't shown in years. Even Chloe was beaming, looking at me with a strange, triumphant glint in her eyes. It was a bizarre kind of energy, where a perfectly staged holiday smile completely masked a deeply calculating, hidden agenda underneath the surface. As we all sat down around the beautifully decorated table, the casual small talk quickly began to fade. My mother cleared her throat, exchanging a heavy, meaningful look with my father before resting her hands on the table. The conversation shifted seamlessly away from holiday cheer and directly toward Chloe's recent, catastrophic financial ruin. She had lost her latest apartment lease, her mounting debts were catching up to her, and she desperately needed a premium place to live with her kids. My father nodded solemnly, looking directly at me as he sighed. "We've been doing a lot of hard thinking about how to handle this crisis, Olivia," he said, his voice dropping into a deeply serious, patronizing tone. "And luckily for all of us, we've already finalized the perfect, permanent solution to ensure your sister gets back on her feet." My mother smiled brightly, raising her champagne glass with theatrical precision. "We've decided that Chloe and her kids are moving into your downtown condo next month, Olivia." Everyone around the table instantly erupted into cheers, clapping vigorously and congratulating my sister as if she had just won a prestigious award. Chloe beamed at me, already talking about how perfect the location was for the kids' new school. They all looked at me with expectant, pressuring smiles, completely assuming that because we were in front of the extended family, I would simply nod along, swallow my anger, and hand over my life's work to keep the peace. My blood turned completely to ice as I sat there, staring at the sheer audacity of my own parents giving away my $350,000 property without ever asking me. They genuinely believed that my independence gave them the right to strip away my security to cover for Chloe's endless failures. My legal mind raced behind my blank expression. If I screamed or caused a massive scene right now, they would instantly play the victims, lock down their defenses, and find a way to make my life a living hell. I needed time, and more importantly, I needed the element of surprise. So, instead of letting them see the blinding rage burning inside me, I slowly let a warm, compliant smile spread across my face. I stood up, clapped along with them, and calmly toasted to my sister's bright future. They thought they had successfully trapped me, but they had actually just triggered the countdown to their own destruction. The moment I stepped out of my parents' house that night, the fake smile slid right off my face. I didn't waste a single second crying. Instead, I pulled out my phone and contacted a high-profile real estate investor I knew through my corporate auditing work. He was famous for executing aggressive, lightning-fast property flips with total cash payouts. I told him I had a premium downtown condo ready for an immediate off-market sale, and because I needed this dealt with permanently before the new year, I priced it at $335,000, just slightly under market value. He recognized an incredible deal when he saw one and agreed to an unconditional, all-cash closing within 72 hours. The psychological tension over the next 3 days was almost unbearable. I had to secretly pack up my entire life into unmarked boxes, working late into the night while my family remained completely oblivious. Every few hours, my phone would buzz with incredibly sweet, manipulative text messages from Chloe. She was sending me screenshots of expensive paint colors and high-end furniture, casually asking which bedrooms the kids should take and if I could leave my premium sound system behind for them. I forced myself to reply with polite, neutral emojis, keeping up the illusion of total compliance while the investor's legal team finalized the title transfer. On December 29th, the funds cleared, the deed was officially recorded, and the condo legally belonged to someone else. I changed my digital door locks one final time, packed the last of my belongings into a moving truck, and prepared for the spectacular meltdown I knew was coming the very next morning. It was exactly 9 o'clock on the morning of December 30th when the storm finally hit. My parents, Chloe, and her husband all pulled into the condo driveway with a massive, rented moving truck, completely expecting me to smile and hand over my keys. Instead, they were greeted by absolute silence and a completely changed digital lock on the front door. At that exact moment, a professional moving crew hired by the new cash buyer arrived to clear out the final pieces of staging furniture. My family was blocked from entering the building, completely stranded on the sidewalk with all their boxes. The second they realized they couldn't get inside, my phone completely exploded. I sat in a quiet coffee shop 3 miles away, pulled up my settings, and calmly turned the ringer onto silent. I watched the screen light up relentlessly, casting a bright glow against the table as a cascading avalanche of frantic notifications started rolling in. There were furious text messages from my mother, demanding to know why my keys weren't working. There were panicked alerts from my father, accusing me of playing a sick, twisted holiday joke on my own sister. Then came the calls, one right after another, vibrating against the wood until the screen was completely filled with missed alerts. I didn't answer a single one of them. I just sat back and sipped my coffee, watching the digital counter climb higher and higher as they stood outside in the cold. By the time they finally realized that the lock wasn't broken and that I was completely gone, my phone screen displayed exactly 79 missed calls from the very people who had tried to steal my life. After letting the phone ring itself out, I finally opened the voicemails. The cascading sequence of messages was a masterclass in family manipulation. The first few from my father were booming and demanding, ordering me to pick up right now and stop acting like a spoiled child. But within an hour, the tone completely shifted. My mother's voice was weeping and desperate, leaving a guilt trip about how I was single-handedly ruining Christmas for Chloe's innocent children, who were now crying on the sidewalk next to a rented moving truck. The final voicemails were the best part, pure, unadulterated panic. The real estate investor's corporate legal team had arrived at the property, and they weren't playing games. They threatened my family with immediate police intervention and trespassing charges if they didn't remove their moving truck from the private driveway within 15 minutes. That was when I decided to send my one and only text message back to the family group chat. I attached a crystal clear digital copy of the final closing statement showing the full $335,000 cash payout and the newly recorded deed. Beneath the document, I typed, "The condo has been sold. The money is safely in my private account, and I no longer have a family. Enjoy your moving truck." The absolute silence that followed was beautiful. They realized they had no legal recourse, no leverage, and absolutely no way to force me to fix the massive financial trap they had dug for themselves. 3 months after that explosive holiday showdown, I finally found my peace in a beautiful, quiet town hours away from my toxic hometown. I used the cash from the sale to buy a gorgeous new home, completely untethered from the heavy emotional manipulation that had drained me for over a decade. My parents tried sending a few generic emails months later, but I blocked those too. I spent my New Year's completely rebuilding my life on my own terms, surrounded by people who actually respect my boundaries and value my hard work. Looking back at that dining table, I realized that letting go of them was the greatest gift I could have ever given myself. They wanted to take my security, but they ended up giving me my total freedom instead. Now, I'm incredibly curious about all of you who have stayed to listen to my story. What would you have done if you were standing in my shoes that night? Would you have kept the peace for the sake of the holidays? Or would you have sold the roof right out from under them too?